So Chelsea's appeal against their transfer ban has been rejected. And now there are issues for them because they have players like Eden Hazard who they want to keep. He probably wants away, but he's only got 1 year left. And they've got loan signings, which we'll take a look at shortly as well. How detrimental is this as a blow for Chelsea?
I think it's a huge blow, especially as they try to plan what their next steps are. And given the number of players that they have out on loan, given the fact that Eden Hazard only has a year left on his contract, and it certainly doesn't look likely that he's going to stay on. So, but kind of given the way these things have gone over recent seasons, this is not the first club that are facing a transfer ban, and the approach has been to knock this as far up the food chain as you possibly can. FIFA have rejected the ban. That will now go, they will appeal that to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, buy yourself a little bit of time, and then try to stock your dressing room as best you can before a ruling is handed down. Again, kind of the way these things have gone, it'll take another 3 or 4 months before we see something about that.
The weird thing is they can buy players, they just can't register them, so there's no point in buying them if you can't register unless you think someone else might buy them and you just want to hold them. So we've put together a potential 11 for next season right now. Now, it does include Hazard because they have a decision to make. Hazard wants away, by all accounts, Real Madrid, but if they let him go, they can't buy someone to replace him. Higuaín's an interesting one because under the terms of the loan deal that he signed, he can join permanently. Kovacic cannot. That's why he's in there. That isn't a bad side, is it?
No, it's not. Especially when you see the way Chelsea have finished the season. Now, my big criticism of Sarri and certainly Chelsea, and when they weren't playing well, is his reluctance to include Loftus-Cheek and Hudson-Odoi.
Yep.
But you've seen that, and you've seen that over the last few weeks, and you've seen the results turn. Because otherwise, I'm convinced that Chelsea weren't going to finish top 4. Now it's all but now they're there. So that being said, as a team, it's good enough.
But is it good enough to challenge Liverpool and Manchester City for the title?
No, listen, regardless of how good a start Chelsea had, regardless of how good an end to the season that they've had, you just have to look at the gap between Chelsea and the front two right now, almost nothing to pick between them. And you know that they are going to strengthen their squads in the summer themselves. They have no transfer ban to worry about. So I don't see Chelsea making up any ground, certainly on those two. The best they can hope for is that the others aren't active in the transfer window and they can at least maintain that position.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Now, Chelsea have 41 players out on loan, which is a lot.
Yeah.
I want to take a look at some of the main ones. Tell me if any of these players would get in your 11 or the 11 that we showed from Chelsea as a potential for next season.
Get into the 11, no. I would keep the likes of Victor Moses. Let's remember he won a Premier League title with Chelsea himself. Maybe Kurt Zuma as cover. Bakayoko has been good for AC Milan this season. Maybe he comes back and has improved. Outside of that, there's not an awful lot to phone home about. Again, I keep those players if I can't sign anybody this transfer window. As I mentioned at the top, I believe that Chelsea will kind of follow everybody else's lead in how they approach this transfer window and getting the opportunity to stockpile the dressing room before that ban comes down.
The Chelsea team this year is slightly different from the Chelsea team before Sarri under Antonio Conte. Victor Moses is someone you mentioned. He's persona non grata under Sarri. Alonso was one of Sarri's favourites, the way he played. But Emerson's now come in as well. What's the chances of Sarri not being there next season? Because this week, Antonio Conte said to Gazzetta in Italy, I'm not going to Roma.
Right.
Sarri's now the favourite to go back there. Do some of these players have a new opportunity if Sarri goes?
I think a lot will hinge on what happens in this transfer window. If the transfer ban holds up and Chelsea aren't able to sign players, I'm not sure who comes in. I'm not, even if Sarri walks away, who comes in without any kind of prospect of signing players to make this team their own? Do you go back to Antonio Conte and you believe that some of these players have already worked with him and know him, and maybe you can get the best out of them again?
How far back are we going? We're going to go Mourinho?
And that's the whole point. So maybe it's better sticking with Sarri if you can, and if he's not willing to move, while the squad still know him and he's been able to get a response out of them over the last few weeks. There's just a lot of question marks about everything with Chelsea while this still hangs over their heads.
You told me a couple of minutes ago that squad is not, in your opinion, going to win the Premier League ahead of Liverpool and Manchester City. So that, coupled with a transfer ban, if you're Maurizio Sarri, do you want to stay?
If you're Roman Abramovich, I'm not sure that Sarri has a choice. And that's the challenge for Maurizio Sarri right now.
So who's next?
I don't know. Again, who comes to Stamford Bridge and the first thing you're told as you walk in the door is you can't sign any players. This is what you've got. Eden Hazard is leaving in a year's time. He might sulk a little bit, but here you go. Make what you can of that. That's not a situation that any big name manager wants to walk into.
Thank you for your help with the suggestions there as to who's next. I'll leave you with one idea. I think it's important they get a Chelsea individual who's played for the club or whatever, and someone who's maybe not quite the flavour of the month among his workmates right now. Craig Burley.
That'd be good for us. I vote for that.